it's important to live life slowly because sometimes when we're trying to rush things, we're making things seem really kind of hectic when we do have a few minutes to just slow down. And it's something as simple as like you're brushing your teeth and you're moving really fast, but just kind of slow it down just a little bit because it's still 2 minutes that you're going to be brushing your teeth or however long.
Hey, hey, hey! Thanks for tuning in to RAA Talks. I'm Raihana. I'll be your host, and I'm so happy to have you joining us again. Just a reminder, RAA Talks is a platform to share inspirational stories about women and the realities that they face as they work to achieve their goals. Because, ladies, let's be real here. There is no smooth ride to achieving your goals. So let's get to real talk. That's what we do at RAA Talks. Joining me today on the show is Sydney Larrigan. Sydney is a full-time dental assistant and a small handcrafted business owner of Luna & Co. Sydney desired to make hair maintenance enjoyable and effortless. Sydney, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. I am looking forward to hearing more about how did Luna & Co even start and how do you manage to be a business owner and full-time dental assistant? So can you share a little more about what sparked your initial interest in starting Luna & Co?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. So I started back in 2020, COVID time, right in the middle of quarantine, and I wanted something to do. Always had the love for crafting, creating, and I also loved gifting people or to people. And I also love scrunchies, and that's where I started. I did not know how to sew. And
I love a good scrunchie, like how it
right.
feels and the texture and everything.
Yeah, and I had no idea how to make them. I feel like people usually maybe start with scrunchies or something small like that on the sewing machine, so that's what I did, and I loved it, and it was so fun to have that result of just like a fun little scrunchie and have it be my own thing that I created. I loved it. It was fun to just set up the Etsy and have a business and do markets and get that community and connection with other creators, even if it was like a business that didn't or a day at the market that didn't fully sell. It was like I got to meet all these other creators and be in a creative space. So that was just something that I enjoyed and wanted to continue doing.
That's so cool. Well, you didn't mention one thing. Your scrunchies are filled with a special element that increase this feeling of calm and soothingness and building into like a night care routine. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that piece? Because I think we have a lot of mothers and working mothers listening in, so I think they might be interested in hearing more about that.
Yeah, of course. So kind of the goal with my business is to bring around an enjoyment and an excitedness around the night routine or the self-care routine. And so we have fluffy scrunchies, but the newest one that we came out with is a lavender infused scrunchie, which is really exciting. I love them so much and I'm glad to get them on the market. But they're filled with lavender flowers. And it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong and it lasts quite a while. It's something that just helps when you need to sleep, you can't sleep, when you're stressed, you can have it at home for sleep, or you can bring it out on the go when you're just out in a stressful environment, like in a big crowd or at a concert or something that's overwhelming. You just can keep it in your purse, on your keychain, and then just kind of smell some lavender, do some deep breath practices. And it's been really, really like an enjoyment for me. I use it myself even. It's something that I need for just anxiety that I've had. And it's actually very convenient. Even my friends are like, do you have your scrunchie with you? If you're stressed out, bring your scrunchie out and just breathe in that scent and take a deep breath, calm down. Yeah. And it's been very helpful.
So cool. I just got a lavender plant and I thought about you and those scrunchies. So I was just thinking, how do you get all of that lavender to just fill these beautiful scrunchies with?
Yeah, so I order them in bulk online, but I'm gonna be slowly switching over to more local farms. It was kind of more of a test to
Nice.
see how it went with people at markets and if it was something that was popular. And a
Mhm.
lot of people do enjoy it, so that's exciting. So then I can turn it over and reach out to some local farms and see if I can buy in bulk that way and support local.
I love that, especially in the state we live in. Do you mind if I
Mhm.
share that?
Yeah, of
Yeah, in
course.
this in state of Washington, there's so much greenery and farmers, and just supporting local is such a empowering thing to do, especially as a small business owner. Are you using fresh flowers or dried flowers? And what do you notice about the difference between the two as you've filled your beautiful scrunchies with these?
Yeah. So with my experience, I'm using dried flowers. I think those will last
Mm.
a bit longer because those are ones that you could just, a lot of people put in like a little bag and leave in their bathrooms or their living rooms, and that scent just kind of continues to go on. With the scrunchies too, it's kind of fun because you can just scrunch them literally. over time, and then that smell keeps coming. It just lasts a lot longer. I thought about doing like essential oils as well, but I feel like that scent will fade over time. So I wanted it to be something you're buying one time and it lasts a while because you're buying a product. And so that was the most efficient for that product.
That is so cool. Now you need to start getting some like dried roses and things like that if those have
Right?
like smells that last longer, you know? And
Yeah.
seriously, we should think about partnering or something because I love this whole self-care routine and that's something that I really focus on. And I wouldn't mind offering some self-care bags for mamas to dive into because that would be something we can just pop one of your scrunchies in. You know what I'm saying? Side conversation for offline, y'all. Well, thank you so much for sharing about that. And it's so exciting to hear about your business. And, before we dive into our first conversation about work life balance, just wanted to quickly ask you why dental assisting and how did you even start on that path?
Yeah, so originally that was not the path that I was going down because I'm not as much of a sciencey person. I'm more
Yeah,
creative, free will, or not free will. What am I talking about? Some free spirited, and so I like to do that path more. I never saw myself going down a science path, but I remember somebody when I was in high school and I was like, I have no idea what to do. She gave me the advice to pick something that fit my lifestyle the most. So if I wanted to be more family oriented when I'm older, if I wanted to be more career driven, if I liked working independently with a group. So that kind of really put into perspective what I wanted. And what I wanted was to be able to do something more, I don't want to say entrepreneurial, but just something that I created myself. So with dentistry, usually they do 4 days a week, 3 days a week. And so that's kind of more of what my motivation was to pick something that had a schedule that allowed for me to dive deeper into my creative aspirations, but then also I do want a family eventually and I want to have kiddos. And I feel like that was something that was more flexible and allowed for that. So that's kind of the direction I went there. Not overly passionate about teeth, but I'm learning as I go and it's been fun.
you got some great teeth, by the way.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but a lot of people in my circle are like, interesting. Dentistry. Okay. I couldn't do that myself, but all right. And I'm like, I didn't think I would either, but it worked out great. So it's been really
That's
fun.
so cool.
Yeah.
That's so funny though. You said something that I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit deeper. You're like, I was told find something that fits my lifestyle. And you were in high school. Talking about forward thinking, by the way, because you don't develop those forward thinking skills until like college and thereafter.
Right.
But it's so interesting that somebody told you this and then you really thought deeply about, okay, what is going to fit my lifestyle? I want to be creative. And that's amazing, first of all, that you had that awareness at such a young age in life. But then how did you know, okay, dental assisting is the way to go? Because then you can look at other options like, okay, medical assistants, even there. I can even be a phlebotomist, for example. If you're talking about the sciences area, there are even other opportunities as well outside of the science field. But how did you come to dental assisting specifically? Because that's a really niche field
It
for
is.
somebody who's thinking like high school, okay, what's my lifestyle going to be? Many times it's like something much broader, but that was really niche. How did you come to that?
To be honest, I'm not quite sure. It was very random. It was very out of the blue. It did take me a while to think about it because I graduated. I did an associate's degree just because I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do. I was still kind of in that, oh, I want to do this creative thing, but I need to support myself type of conflict. And I just wanted something to do both. And I researched a few things, but dentistry just kept coming up. It just kept popping in my head. And that was something that, like, when I would go to the dentist, I just enjoyed it. I felt calm there. A lot of people feel
You
calm.
enjoy going to the dentist?
Yeah.
You're one of the rare folks who do. That's interesting.
My mom pointed that out. She was just like, "You're enjoying this?" And I'm like, "It's not a big deal. It's just fine." So that stood out to me too. I was
Oh,
like, okay, not everybody does like to do that. So I thought of looking further into that. But I'm also somebody that gets really freaked out with health things like needles and all of that in the more medical field. I wasn't a big fan. So that was why I was surprised I'm even going in the medical field. But dental has a lot of great pathways and a lot of great ways to get started. In Washington State, and this is what I learned before I got into it at least, you don't necessarily have to go to school to do dental assisting. You can get trained in office, hands-on with a dentist, which is what I ended up doing instead of school because it was tough around the 2020 time. You can't really do that hands-on when everything shut down. So I just kind of got started at the front desk. And I was a very small office. And it was great because that gave me more like intimate time to just be one-on-one, really learn things. And then I moved on to another company and got to expand that. So it was a slow transition and I moved from front desk to dental assistant, but that worked for me. And it was a good, really slow pace to just fully learn everything. And I feel like you can't always do that with other medical positions, to my knowledge, at least. But
you know what? I used to work in tech And what you just described is exactly the mentality you need to work in tech, for example, because the mentality is you learn on the job and you're never going to know everything. Now I'm getting in a mom mode here. Even as a parent, you learn on the job. So it's not just in dental assisting, it's not just in tech, it's not just in parenthood. I'm sure there's something else, but you are going to have to learn on the job. And I love that you built that mentality because it's such an important skill. Sometimes even as women, we feel like, God, I need to check all the boxes. I need to learn everything. If I don't know everything, oh, I'm not going to apply. I'm not going to be able to work here. I'm not going to be able to succeed. I'm not going to be able to move up the ladder. You start thinking all kinds of crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? And wow, it's like you're just creating all this pressure in your own head and it doesn't exist. Like all you have to do is be curious and learn just like a toddler and be wanting to just pursue and persist and not let things like failure and making mistakes and getting in your way. So I'm curious to know more about that journey, but let's start talking a little bit more about the deeper questions and we'll get deeper into it. How do you say about that?
Sounds good.
All right. So thank you for sharing. And you mentioned, you found your dream job, dental assisting, so you can do your creative stuff on the side, which requires really careful orchestration to protect your mental health too, because you're doing two jobs at once at a young age as well. What are some of the key boundaries that you set for yourself to create a sense of balance between your dental assisting work and Luna and Co, along with your personal life? And to really just focus on maintaining your overall mental well-being.
Yeah, I would say it was a journey. When I first started dental assisting, I went from the front desk to dental assisting. It was a lot more physical, a lot more knowledge that I needed to hone in on. And so that was a bit overwhelming at first. And I'm a big overthinker. So I definitely stressed out a bit of like, how do I balance this? I want to prioritize the creative side, but I need to also get this under my feet here. And so yeah, it was definitely a process, but it kind of was a trial and error experience. Now I'm at the point where I've just kind of learned what cater to what I need and what I can handle. And it's, I think, really important to know your breaking points and what not to cross and what is a good thing to maintain. Cause I was trying to do everything and all the things, and it led to me just not doing my business in general for a while. I kind of put it off for 6 months to a year, and just focused on the career, which is totally okay, of course, because that was my priority at the time. But I was like, no, this is my passion. I want to get back to this. And so it was kind of slow to bring it back, but I worked it into my routine of knowing what I needed. So during the work days, I was more exhausted. And so that was something where I was like, okay, this is my boundary. I need to put aside the small business for now, focus on this, get my sleep, because if I lose my sleep, it's not a good day. But
Yeah,
then I kind of,
100%.
right? And so I kind of use my small business as my own like career schedule. So I made it like my days off. I work Monday through Thursday, and then my business was completely a full dedication day on Fridays. And at first I was like, that's not enough time. I'm not going to get to do everything. But the slower, the better, I think. The slower and the steadier the race, because then it was like Friday was the day I fully committed. And then I can set that to the side and then focus on my career and then play life. And it didn't seem like enough at first. And that was kind of a bummer for me and kind of made me sad, because I was like, this is where I want to go and focus on the creative stuff. But doing that eased my stress a lot and helped me to focus on both by making designated times. And it was hard because throughout the week, I'm like, oh, I want to post this new launch, or I want to make something on Instagram for it. But I think it was important to like set those boundaries and be like, all right, Friday's the day I make my content. Friday's the day I'll sew. And then I have stuff to post throughout the week and just be more passive with it. And so that was ultimately what helped me, in little things like that.
So you were saying you going slow and steady. And then you mentioned it was important for me to set those boundaries. And you had different ideas, and like any entrepreneur can relate, right? You have so many different ideas that are coming in your head, and sometimes come as a spark, just maybe in the middle of your workday, and you're thinking like, oh wow, that's a great idea. Let me write that down and record it on my phone so I can take care of it later. And you're talking about trying to kind of control those thoughts to a point where it's not going to create mental overload or stress on you, and you kind of put it aside for one day. How did you even create those boundaries for yourself? Because I'm an entrepreneur too, and I know how that road goes. It's constant like firecrackers going off in your head when a new idea comes. So how do you tone that down and really be strict about it to keep your mental health in check by only doing those things on a Friday?
Yeah, it's tough because it's stuff that I want to focus on and do. And so it's like in the middle of a work day, even sometimes I'm like, oh, I really like have this really good idea. I want to branch it out. Luckily with my job, I do have a few pause moments that I will just literally grab like a notebook and I'll just write it down and just
Yeah.
that all collected. But I don't know, girl, it was a journey because I wanted that to be the focus. And other things in life, I didn't really have boundaries with. That
Hmm.
really wasn't English, but I didn't really have boundaries with other things in life. And it was harming me in a way with just like mental health, anxiety, and stuff with just friendships, things with family, other things of just, side jobs, passions, all the random things.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I would just kind of just be like a yes man, and that was running me down. And um, to me, I was like, I have to do something about it so that I'm living like my best, fullest life, and to set those boundaries that way. So that was more of a motivator for me. But I think I just did a few like a trial month and to see if I could do it,
Mm.
because then I was like not fully committing to sacrificing my business is how it felt in the beginning with putting those boundaries. But I was like, okay, let's do a
Hmm.
trial run and see if it affects my mental health in a better way. And it did. And then I think the slower I went with it, not slow pace, but just taking bit by bit, kind of got me more on a good flow. And then I was able to focus on it a lot more, which was beneficial in the long run, I think.
So you said, I'm going to give myself 1 month to try it out and see if it helped my mental health. And it did. What cue happened for you in that 1 month period that helped you understand it is helping my mental health to just carve out this one day to work on my business and I'm not going to feel bad about it? What happened that you realized that, oh my God, yes, this is helpful?
Hmm. I think just it kind of silenced the overthinking a bit, because throughout the work week, I would be overthinking about it or getting more negative because I was like, oh, I'm wasting my time with this career mumbo jumbo. I should be focusing on the stuff that I'm really passionate about. And I would just think kind of negatively about like what I'm doing in life and all of that stuff because I'm not focusing on where I want to go, because the small business is kind of more of the direction that I want to prioritize. But I think the cue there would just be the peace of mind and just knowing I have a full day to dedicate with no distractions. That'll be more successful that way. Because then if I'm doing it throughout the week, I'm overly stressed. I may not be sleeping until later, and then I see that leaking into my like actual work life in the dental field, and then I need to focus for that because it's more serious than just what I used to do. So that was a priority to me, was I wanted to do the best at balancing all of that. And so having that kind of toned down and silenced down throughout the work week was worth it to kind of narrow it down to one day, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. And I think that's such a powerful insight that you noticed you silenced the negative self talk by giving yourself a dedicated day to do what you wanted. And I think it's so applicable to us, whether you're a mother or just a working woman in general at any stage of your life, because there's always going to be a stressor. There's always going to be something you feel you need to take care of and you deprioritize something else. And I talk about self-care a lot because that's something I really I feel is so important as a working mother. Like you start focusing more on your family and your work and you forget, oh, I didn't brush my hair enough today, or I didn't do my eyebrows, or man, I forgot to shave, whatever it is that you consider a self. Like, let's be real here, right? There are things that are important to us that make us feel good, like just using your favorite lotion, and you don't do it and you're like, wow, my skin is cracking, what happened? And then you start feeling bad about it, but it's because it's natural process of giving other things priority because they're more urgent at that time, so to speak. And then you automatically deprioritize the things that make you feel good, that help you overall, but they become less of a priority, not less important, but less of a priority at that time. And then you start having all this negative self talk. And I think that was such an important piece that you mentioned. Carve out time for that, knowing that, I don't have to stress about this in the week. I'm going to take care of my business, and that's part of taking care of me and my mental health in the process. And you just said it. Like, it helped me silence the negative self-talk. And that's an important piece we all need to learn, whether it's carving out specific time for your business or a hobby or whatever it is you need to do to make yourself feel good so you can show up strong in all aspects in every other day of your life. Because if we don't, we start to fall apart. And that was the next part that you mentioned that I wanted to talk to you about, because sometimes we kind of take it for granted. You said, I need to get my sleep. Now, you got to tell me the secret sauce. How did you know that sleep was such an important part for you to function and to maintain your mental health? And I'm really curious about that because people don't really realize that till they're like 50s or 60s or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Sleep Sleep is huge. Sleep is huge. I think we've all kind of learned it the hard way. I think I started like back in high school, when you're staying up and studying or you're like procrastinating till like 10 p.m. and then you're like, I gotta write this essay, some stuff like that where you just slowly start losing sleep and getting sleep debt. And it definitely builds up on you. And it just shows up in your day-to-day life with relationships with people, your position in your career, just how your mental focus is. And it's a lot of little things that you're like, I should go to the doctor and maybe get like something checked, or you think it's something else. Well, potentially it could be, but for me, it just sneaks up in little ways that you may think it's something else, but it can be as simple as like you need to prioritize your sleep. Yeah, it was even to the point sometimes where I was like not making sense. Like, I'd be like more stuttering with my words because I can't focus on two things at once because I wasn't getting enough sleep, or I would be getting more anxiety. Like my mental health would just be tanking. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. I need to do something about it. And someone was like, how much sleep do you get? Do you go to bed on time? What's kind of your routine? And I, especially waking up early with the dental field, I was getting maybe like 5 hours. And sometimes even like 6 or 7 may not be enough depending on, what you're doing, your activeness and how much you're juggling. It takes a toll on your mental health, but so many things do. And I think it's so important to get sleep. Something that I did to help with that, because I'm a big sleep procrastinator. I feel like a lot more people are talking about that now, where I'm like, okay, I worked all day, I have so much. And I know for like mothers, if they are part-time working and then they come home to their kiddos, they don't have that time for themselves or full-time career. You have like 3 hours till daylight's gone. And then you're like, I don't have that time. And then you want to kind of stay up and read or catch up on things for like yourself. And so that's kind of what I was doing, but I was just scrolling on social media until like midnight, and then it just kind of the habit went from there, and that was getting like 5 hours of sleep on the work nights. And I think the biggest thing for me was to put my phone away, but also in general for a longer term fix was to fit little things here and there for yourself. And that's kind of like what my message is for like my small business too, is like being more and having more intention for like your night routine or those small little things, because we can't always fit in like a nice spa night or a massage or something when we feel like we need it. So it's in the little things like your night routine of like, okay, I'm just going to wash my face and go to bed. I'm exhausted, but like light a candle, do like a little face mask, like just small little things that you add to that and take a breath and just be in the moment. Stuff like that can help really feel like you're giving to yourself, and then you can rest a little bit easier, I would say.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first met you and you were telling me about the whole night routine, I've never heard about that.
Really?
And when you said it, I thought that's genius. Mamas need to hear this. Night routine. You said you want to build a family. I'm like, girl, you got to get ready to have less than 5 hours of sleep a day. And when you get 5 to 6, you're like, life is good again. But that's a different conversation. But anyway, back to the whole night routine. It was genius. And I started thinking about it more. And I said, I don't even have a morning routine. I get out of bed, hope my toddler doesn't wake up, and I'm running. I'm running like I had to run to this podcast this morning and jump into my clothes, get the headset on. I had my water the night before because I knew I wouldn't have that much time. I only had like 10 minutes to just jump in and get started because she's gonna wake up otherwise. Like 10 minutes after I jump out, she's up. And I can't have that because she's got to get her sleep. And so there you go, back to the sleep thing. And so it's just like as a mom, again, sleep is not top priority because you're thinking about everybody else and making sure everybody's taken care of. And from the time you become a mother or have a newborn, if you have multiple kids, your sleep goes out the window.
Yep.
You're lucky if you get 1 hour continuous when that baby's crying. And so it becomes you're like, okay, yeah, that's my life now. And so you just automatically, as the baby's growing, you start thinking, I don't need to focus on my sleep because it's not important. And it is important, but you have to transition. Like we talk about this on another episode that I do. Like you have to transition. Like there's a transition period. Like, yes, for the first few months, you're not going to get sleep. It's okay. Catch up when you can. Then when the baby gets older, you transition. Okay, add a little bit more, add a little bit more. And as the baby keeps growing, keep adding a little bit more and trying to make it work back in your schedule. But when you don't do things like what you're talking about, having a night routine, and as I was mentioning, a day routine, like to start your day, whether you need 2 minutes or 20 minutes. Never underestimate the time of giving yourself a little bit in the morning and in the evening to kind of start up and wind down. And I wanted to ask your take on that. You were talking about I realized I wasn't showing up well, and I was not functioning at my best. And I realized I was told, like, how much sleep are you getting? And you started thinking about it. How did you develop this concept of, I need to build in a night routine into my schedule to make sure I can get better sleep? How did that come up for you?
I think it was just at a point where I'm like, I need to do something to get back into balance. And when that was kind of like the key point of like, I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. I was exhausted. I wasn't knowing what was going on. I was like, I
Yeah.
need to fit something in. But there was a lot going on. I had other commitments. There was not a lot of time. And I would always say, like, I don't have time for that. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. For everybody, or for some people, that's not always the case, because sometimes they literally cannot get to that. But then for other people, it's like we can create that time. We're just like scrolling, or like we're just those small moments where we're just like doing stuff that isn't entirely good for our mental health. And so that's what I was
Yeah.
doing. But
No,
I think,
totally.
yeah. No,
Social is like a mental drainer, and it's like a no. Like, they always, like, researchers tell you, don't look at your phone before sleeping because it affects your circadian rhythms, because it's like a huge amount of light you're putting in your eyes, and it just affects you overall. So, like, kind of set a time to turn that phone off, like at least an hour or so before you're getting ready to bed, which sounds like it could be part of the routine. But please continue, and I'd love to hear what your routine is, if you're welcome or comfortable in
yeah,
sharing
yeah, of
what your
course.
night routine is.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I got the idea of like, where can I fit in some sort
Yeah.
of reset, some sort of relaxing moment, because they say like you can do meditation, deep breaths, but I'm like, I don't have time for that, but I did in the moment. It was easier to just kind of add to what I was already doing. And so I knew that my night routine was not like, I was going in, I was washing my face really quick. I wasn't doing the whole like toner, like the slow thing that everybody's
Yeah.
doing. And so I just brushed my teeth and call it good. But I would feel more like when I would lay down in bed, I would not feel fully like ready to rest. I would just kind of still feel up because I just hustled in the bathroom and I went and laid down. So I don't know if it was an Instagram post or somebody that said it, but it's important to live life slowly and kind of pause in the moment, because sometimes when we're trying to rush things, we're making things seem really kind of hectic when we do have a few minutes to just slow down. And it's something as simple as like you're brushing your teeth and you're moving really fast, but just kind of slow it down just a little bit, because it's still 2 minutes that you're going to be brushing your teeth or however long. But kind of for my night routine, it's still very simple because I want to be doing something that I can commit to and that's manageable, because if it's super extensive, I'm not going to commit to that every single night. But it's just
Yeah,
little things of like,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm going to light like a candle to set the mood and shower, and then kind of just do things slowly, kind of as simple as that. It's just when I'm putting on my like face lotion, I'm kind of doing it as a massage, or do like, that lymphatic thing that people are doing. So it feels a little bit more like a treat yourself. And then, of course, not to throw my business in, but have my little scrunchie. I have like towel ones. So if my hair is wet and I have a hair mask in, I'll like, it just makes it more exciting and fun. So I'll like wrap it in the scrunchie and be like, okay, I look like I'm doing a spa thing. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, just little things like that. And that enhance it, even though it's very simple and very short, small changes. It makes me feel a little bit more refreshed when I leave the bathroom and I'm like, okay, I took time for myself. I feel like I filled some
Absolutely.
cups for myself in there. So yeah.
Sure, 100%. No, that makes sense. And I love the idea of lighting a candle when you're doing the shower, and how you were saying to just kind of slow things down. I think that's a really important part of building that into your routine, because so many, I remember just when you were saying, like, hustle is not the way to go, like, you need to live life slowly. Even there was a working mother, and I won't name any names. She's got this newsletter, and in the newsletter, she has the word hustle, and it rubbed me the wrong way, because I felt moms are already working at full speed. Why to remind them about that?
Right.
And their whole goal here was to kind of help be soothing, and providing a source of calm and reassurance, like how you can kind of reduce the chaos.
Mhm.
But that word itself hit me wrong. And so it's just so interesting how sometimes we don't realize it, but when we see different words, like you saw the word slow down, how it impacted you, and it made you want to change your night routine or build one. And for me, that word hustle made me feel like, no, it's not about hustling. It's about being present. And like what you said, slowing down. And I think we need to be really careful about who we're listening to, what we're reading, and what we're telling ourselves, because words have such a huge impact, whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously. it's affecting you. And I think that was a really important point. And one thing, I'm going to be a little bit graphic here, y'all, because I think it's important for us as women to really make this a practice. Okay, so bear with me. But as part of this night routine, I think Sydney offered some really great examples. But I want to break it down. That's like a premium example, I would say, you lighting a candle and getting your nice little scrunchie. Let's break it down to a little bit something a little basic. And Sydney, I want you to tap into this too and ask and let me know what's a basic for you, like a very simple thing. For me as a mom, I didn't get to brush my teeth for like almost a year, or at least the first 6 months. And that sounds crazy. Like, I could not get out of the bed because my baby would not sleep unless mommy was there. And she needed to sleep and she wouldn't sleep that much. So I hardly had time to brush my teeth. And my dentist was like, it's okay. You're a new time parent, first time parent. It makes sense. Like, I went for my cleaning after 2 months and so forth. And I felt so happy to hear that I'm not doing anything wrong, even though I felt like I was doing wrong. And when I started working that back into my schedule, it became an act of self-care. Like something as basic hygiene. When you become a parent, you start to value those things, like the daily shower. You start to value it. But when you talk about bringing in a candle to kind of amplify that experience, that makes it feel good. That makes it feel better. So I would even say get a different shampoo that has like a nice fragrance to it if you can't afford a candle, if you're scared to have a candle because you got like different feelings about wax and how your lungs take it in and everything like that. I'm not sure what people think, but I'm just, putting it out there. So if you have a weird feeling about candles, get a nice shampoo or a nice smelling soap you can use so you can breathe in those aromas and have that sense of calm when you're doing your shower. And while you're at it, go ahead and add your breast exam, because that's my point that I wanted to bring up, because so many times we don't even think about, oh, I gotta touch myself. Why didn't I even do that? Like, that's for like intimate things. No, girl, you need to touch yourself and you need to find out if you have any lumps, because there was a 33-year-old woman who I knew when I was working in tech. Guess what? She found a lump and she had breast cancer and she didn't know about it. And she started talking about it to other women and she talked to me about it. And I thought, wow, I don't check. I should check. And I tell every other woman I meet, hey, you got to check. And you need to check every 2 months. So put in a calendar reminder if you forget to do it. And the perfect way to do it is so you don't think about it. Like right before you lie down for bed, you can check. When you're in the shower, you can check. Just lift your arm up and it has different things you can do, different motions you can do on your skin to make sure you're checking in the right areas for those lumps. That's another act of self-care. But we don't think about it that way. We think about it, oh, it's a task. Brushing my teeth is a task. Flossing is a task. Let's reimagine the way we're viewing self-care by using the basic things that we incorporate into our lives, being more intentional about it, getting a different toothpaste, getting a different toothbrush, like a electric toothbrush from a manual toothbrush is a huge game changer. And it makes you feel like you're getting a better sense of cleaning. Oh, here we go, dental assistant, you know the ropes. Different, like, I think we just have to be more intentional and like slowing. When you really slow down, you start thinking about, oh yeah, this toothbrush really does feel good. And you don't need to spend money on these fancy gimmicks to incorporate things into your night or your day or your morning routine. But I feel like we need to take a step back, slow down, look at what we have, what makes sense, what feels good, and what's practical to repeat and be consistent, so we can continue on this process of healing and mental calm and establishing that for ourselves, whether it's in the morning or in the evening as you're slowing down and winding down. And Sydney, I was talking a lot about that, but I wanted to get your take on what's your view on that, and what would you consider as like a basic essential thing that you can do if you don't have the time or the money to spend on something as lavishing as like a facial or that you could do at home, or like a nice candle and so forth.
hmm Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's all built into what you already have, especially when you don't have the time or even the motivation sometimes when you're so busy. And that takes a toll on your mental health, and you're a mama. You don't have time to even go and shower sometimes or brush your teeth sometimes. It's hard to get out to the store and go buy all those fancy things or go do a facial because you don't always have that time to sit even for like an hour or 30 minutes to go get that stuff done. So I think that's an important lesson just in life as well, to know like you have a lot of these things already at your fingertips that you can do. And something that I loved doing when I was actually younger is go on Pinterest and do those like DIY face mask type things. And it was
Mm.
just like, depending on your skin, but just random things like an olive oil thing or like an egg thing, whatever is the trendy thing now. But it's just things that you already have in your cupboard or your fridge, or you already have at hand that can enhance it. I love what you said about just like trying even just a different toothpaste. So once your toothpaste runs out, try like if you're feeling fun and you want to get a flavored one, go for it. And then that makes it a more fun routine, or one that will help with sensitivity. Just all those random little tiny things that will change is more enjoyable, especially when you're in a moment of just like exhaustion and you don't want to do certain things. It'll feel like a really big change, I would say. And I love the point of the shampoo, or like adding just like go to the dollar store and get like a loofah, and then you're like, ooh, it's like a spa
Ooh,
night,
that's a good one. Then
right?
you have fun colors, different textures again. Giving that scrunchy, bring back that scrunchy, the scrunchy goodness that you incorporate into your products. Yeah, it's totally, totally. One other thing I just meant, I thought to mention for other moms out there, um, floss for kids. They make such fun looking things. I'm like, why don't they do these for adults? My toddler has this. We don't do like flavored things for her because we're like, we don't want to get her into that. They're like, oh, get this bubble gum too. I'm like, no, 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 she's good with the mint. She likes mint. And we'll keep it like that. And so we found this floss on Amazon. Get like, it's unreal. No flavor, no fluoride. And it helps, it's nice and thin so it doesn't hurt the toddler's teeth. And it's a giraffe. And
Oh,
they have 4 different colors. This is so cool. Why don't they make this for adults? Like fun would it be to have something colorful and different shaped than like your regular string floss to kind of just go through your teeth and you can feel nice about it. You look at the color and figure out, okay, which side am I going in next? And that in itself kind of just for me feels like it's stimulating and like fun and like it brings back this whole like childhood nature that which really just creates more calm in my mind. Do you even know about that? Like if they have anything like that for like adult floss? Because I don't know. I just know for like kids that they have that stuff. They always try to make things fun for kids, right? They feel like you're an adult, you don't care about it. You just want to get it done. But that's not really true all the time.
I'm not sure for adults. I know they have those like hand flossers, like the same thing, but not with giraffes on them. But I'm sure there's something on the market like that. But
Yeah.
before dentistry, and even while I was in the midst of dentistry, still flossing was something hard that I like needed to incorporate. And so that's what I actually ended up doing, is getting those like flossers,
Hmm.
and it made it a lot simpler of a task. Something like, instead of having like the floss thread that I have to like go through everything, that was like an extra step. And so just getting something fun that you kind of get excited to use, like you're like, okay, yeah, I got my giraffe flossers today. Like I feel like that's exciting. The
Look at me
simple
geeking
things.
out. Well, if you guys are interested in that, I'll drop the link in the show notes for you so you can check that out. And we'll see if we can find one for adults too, like a fun one. I'll try to look that up and see if there's something cool. Because why not bring some fun for flossing for adults too? That was a whiff. Thank you so much for diving into the whole sleep conversation. Let's take it back to work and bring it back to toxic work environment really quick. Workplace dynamics can be and have a significant impact on our mental health and emotional well-being as well as our career choices. Could you describe some experiences where you might have had a less than ideal work environment and how did you navigate that path?
Yeah, actually, my last job was very toxic for me, and it was my
Oh my God.
first step into dentistry. So it was an interesting
God,
combo.
talk about like getting into something that's just going to destroy your experience of what being into
Right.
dentistry is going to be like. Wow. Well, tell us about it. How was it?
Yeah, I love the job, and I am very grateful for the opportunity. So that's kind of where my mental conflict was I had this great opportunity that maybe not a lot of people would get, but also it was very toxic because it was very small and I adored the people. But in that smaller context, there was more um, just situations for toxicity. And the dentist that I had was very, like, because it was smaller, very controlling and wanted to teach me his way. And there were a lot of restrictions because of that, and a lot of, how do I word this, I guess just a lot of negative self-talk that came from that, and a lot of internal blaming that I ended up doing based off of how my training went. Because I'm trying not to delve too deep into how everything went, out of respect for that office, because it was an amazing opportunity. But it was just little things here or there that they were able to like micromanage and really, really get into everything. Yeah. So part of that was a lot of micromanaging, especially in a position that I didn't know a lot about. And so that was pretty hard on my mental health because how do I word that? Just because I didn't know, but there was a lot of expectations to kind of already know and get it down. And so that, especially since I was sacrificing things that I wanted to do, like my business and creative endeavors, like that kind of sent me into a spiral of just like, what am I doing? What do I want out of life? What am I doing the right direction? Because it affected me out into my personal life as well. It brought down my confidence a lot. And I feel like that hits a lot of people in situations like that. And I know I'm a hard worker and I'm motivated and I show up every day, but it was just little things that they were able to see, like even the little tiny mistakes that weren't a big thing, like forgetting to set sunglasses out. That kind of led to me making more mistakes and just a whole spiral of just total lack of confidence and insecurities. And kind of, it was a long process and I was doing it for about a year, but how it ended was just kind of me really journaling about it and listening to my voice and what I knew felt right, even though I didn't feel confident in speaking my mind. But I kind of just realized like, this is not for me. This is not healthy. And the more I kind of stood up for myself and said my side of things, the more that it was reacted negatively at the job. And so I knew that that was actually somewhere that I wasn't meant to be anymore. And I kind of learned my basics and moved on. And now that I'm at another job, it feels like my strong suits and everything are more valued there and I'm more seen there and there's more opportunities for growth. And so it was kind of rewarding to see my past self in a situation where I was very depressed and very down and blaming on myself, thinking I sucked, I wasn't capable, I couldn't do it, when it was just somebody else kind of putting that on me. Because now that I'm somewhere else, I'm like, I feel really good. I feel really confident. I can go into a room with a patient and feel good and like I know what I'm doing. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really rewarding to see that difference and know it's not just me as well.
I'm so sorry that happened to you because as a first time job and you're exploring a new field for the first time, you would expect the best experience and sometimes that doesn't always happen and I'm really sorry that happened and I wish it was better. Could you share a little bit more detail about what happened that led to the negative, like what the person might have said if you're comfortable sharing, or what happened that led to the negative self-talk, and then we can get to the whole lack of confidence piece after you've spoken a little bit, if that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I feel like throughout the year, it was little things that built up. And I think that's why it was kind of sneaky and why I was very like self blaming because I was like, oh,
Mhm.
he's right. He's right. But it was little things about, like I said, forgetting to put like sunglasses out for the patient, like very, very tiny mistakes. And he was very like, if you can't remember how to put sunglasses out, I'm not going to teach you further into the dental field. So I was doing very, very basic things like setting up the trays, putting them out, cleaning rooms. But I never got to learn anything about like sitting next to him and doing even just something as simple as suction because he was like, if you can't remember to put sunglasses out, like then you're not capable of moving further. And so that definitely took a hit on me as well because I'm like, I'm not capable of doing anything. And I went, sorry, my screen. And then
That's
I
okay.
just kind of went into that spiral there of just like, I can't do anything at all. But just little type of comments like that where it wasn't necessarily needed. And especially at my job now, it's kind of just like now that I don't feel that intimidating or I don't feel intimidated by my boss or my peers, it's like it's easier to remember. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was just this person that was stressing me out and I was hyper fixating on it because they were always there nitpicking. But now that I have a little bit more independence, I'm like, I actually can do this. I can remember something as simple as sunglasses. It was just the environment and being around somebody that was just so nitpicky and negative. But the more that things like that built up, I would stand up for myself more and kind of figure out my stance on things. And so I'll just give one more example here, but there was a situation where I needed to sharpen dental instruments. And so that's more of a hygienist position. Assistants are not supposed to do that. We're not educated or trained, but he wanted me to learn and didn't really give me a good base for that. And so because I couldn't get it down, he was very frustrated and mad because he didn't have a lot of time to give. But then when I couldn't get it, that made him really mad. And so when I stood up for myself and I kind of said like, hey, I wasn't given a lot of training, like I need more time, or like his expectation was for me to get, I would say maybe like 80 tools sharpened in one morning, which is like totally impossible, especially without any training. And I stood up for myself. Like his responses were more demeaning of like, you're kind of sassy, or like you're taking this in a wrong approach. Like it was more like reflective onto myself. So that was kind of like, instead of me being like, what the heck, I was kind of more like, oh, maybe he's right, and just getting like weakening down and believing what he's saying. And so it kind of took me to a point at the end where I don't know, maybe it came off kind of rude, but I had anxiety in the past. That was something that I struggled with every day, and I hadn't had it for a really long time in the last 3 years or so. But I got it back with that job, and I told him that, and I said, hey, like I am starting to feel really anxious around this job. Like this is something, I don't know if dental is for me or not. And he was kind of like, yeah, other places probably aren't going to have as much patience with you with your anxiety and all of these negative things. And I was like, okay, this is not the place for me, because I know that that's not true, and so many people struggle with different things, and they can still work and they can still do things. It's all about the environment that you're in and the people that you're around, because it's like, I thought I couldn't do dental, but then I go to another environment and I'm like, wait, I'm actually good at dental and I love it. So it's very important to be around the right people.
For sure. Environment does make a huge difference in bringing out your strengths and helping you develop that confidence and build on that confidence to do what you're really capable of doing. And it sounds like it was more like he was playing to your weakness, maybe, or what he perceived as a weakness. I'm curious, how do you define anxiety? What does that mean to you? Because it means different things to different people. So I'm curious, what does that mean to you, and how does that show up for you in your life and affect you?
Yeah, I feel like I've had different variations throughout my life, but the biggest one is probably like overwhelm. When there's a lot going on or I can't focus on many things at one time, I just like totally have a shutdown. Like I shut down and I feel overwhelmed and have like a panic attack. And so now that I've grown from that situation as well, I'm building more confidence in that, and kind of know when I'm starting to feel that way. I have some tools that I've worked on and done some therapy for. So that's been a big jump for me, which is awesome. But at the time, it was not awesome because it was just
Yeah,
very
no, totally.
overwhelming. And I just felt just like crying, or like I didn't know how to release all that
Hmm.
anxiousness. But it was just something as simple as like negative self talk, or like a mistake that would happen, or, a social setting. Like I would just feel very, very anxious. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it makes sense. Like we're all going through something. We all have something we're dealing with, whether it's like it feels small or it feels like it's overtaking our world. But there is a place for all of us and there's a job for all of us. And you just need to find the right employer, the right manager, the right environment to help you amplify your skill set and feel good about the work you're doing. So as a coach, what I believe is it's not always the people in our world that make us feel these negative feelings, but sometimes what people say triggers what we feel about ourselves. I'm not making any assumptions here, but I want to just invite you to explore with me. Are you comfortable with that?
Of course.
Okay. So, as he said that, I'm curious, Sydney, when you think back to that situation, did you yourself feel anything about, like, I can't really do this work? When you were entering his office and looking to learn and grow in this field, did you have any of those feelings of like insecurity, like, I don't think I can really do this at all? When you were entering this job, like, did you have that feeling of imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't think I can really do this, but I'm going to try and make it work? Like, I'm just wondering, what was your thought process and how did you really feel deep inside? Because sometimes it's hard to really pinpoint those thoughts because they're really embedded in us, and it's almost like they only come out when there's a trigger. And it sounds like that was a trigger from what I'm hearing and assessing, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just want to do a quick check with you and see if you felt any of those things. And he speaking that might have just amplified that voice in your head and triggered this negative self talk. And then you're looking for evidence to build on that. But wanted to hear your take and see if you felt any of those feelings yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think because it was a newer field and I didn't know anything about it, I feel like I didn't think of it as an insecurity at the time, but I did go in being like, okay, I'm a novice at this. I don't know anything. And I was kind of just going in with the thought that I'm just starting at the beginning. And so when I would go in every day, there wasn't that confidence of like, I know what I'm doing, or I feel secure in what I am doing. So every day it kind of just felt like exposed. It kind of just felt like, whatever happens, it's going to be new and it's going to be hard, I suppose. But yeah, that definitely makes sense, because then it's just like it kind of added to what I was already kind of like thinking deep down of just like, this is new. I don't know the science field very well. And then when he would add little things like that, it was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm right. Like he's right, and it would just amplify that. Yeah.
I mean, and it doesn't sound like that was the truth for you, like internally one side is saying, no, yeah, he's right. I shouldn't do this. Because and what happens is our brain tries to protect us, you know? And so I feel what your brain was doing at that time was like, no, you don't know this. So let's protect you. Let's not let you feel these negative feelings. Let's get you into something where you're just feeling good all the time and move out of dentistry. So it's trying to protect you. But at the same time, if we don't address that root feeling, it can prevent us from excelling in something that's a new space where we can really grow and learn new things and really become something we never even thought we could be. Like, look at you now, you went from dental office to dental assistant, and who knows what's next. Maybe you become a hygienist or a dentist yourself and in your future or something else. And it's incredible that you were able to kind of assess and journal as a way to cope. And I'm curious, how did you move past that feeling of self-doubt and the negative self-talk? Was journaling the only thing that really helped? As we close out here, I'm just curious, like, how did that work for you? And what would you recommend to somebody who might be feeling that self-doubt and experiencing that negative self-talk and it's being amplified by somebody else, whether it's your manager or the owner of the company or whatever situation you're in? What would you advise somebody else if they're in that situation?
In that situation, I would probably say that going to your community of people or your circle is very important because I think we're not meant to do life alone and solve everything by ourselves. Like we're meant to be in community and talk it out. I think that's sometimes hard for a lot of people because we think that we could be a burden or our venting can be a lot. But I think it is good to just kind of talk about it with somebody because they a lot of the times will see outside of the box because in that position I was really in my head and I was really kind of just believing all of the negative things that I didn't see outside of it, that it's just like, I didn't see the reality of it, that like not everything is truth and I'm still learning and to have grace. That wasn't in my head at the time because I was very negative, but just kind of talking to family, friends, or therapists or whoever you have in your circle is, I think, very beneficial. And also to just, for me, journaling helped because it helped me remember like who I am and what my goals are as well. Cause sometimes you can lose like who you are in that moment when other people are saying other things. So it's important to kind of try and hold on to that and be grounded in like who you are. Because it's easy to lose sometimes.
Sure. No, totally. I love that you said some great things like sleep debt and knowing who you are, don't lose who you are. And oh my gosh, so many great words you said. I'm like, this is great. I just want to write them all down. So, thank you so much. This was a beautiful journey to walk through and kind of understand the past and heal from it at the same time in this conversation. And I hope it was a good moment of healing for you and inspiration for some listeners who might be feeling something similar, might need some healing from a past situation themselves. I want to give you some space, Sydney, as we close out here to add any final thoughts, any other wisdom, or anything at all that you'd like to share with listeners as we end our conversation today.
Yeah. I think overall, the biggest thing to talk about is in regards to the small business or any kind of like endeavor or passion that you have, is that it is possible to do whether you have all the time in the world or you don't, because kind of like we were talking in the beginning, it's those tiny little steps as small as like changing your toothpaste brand, because
Yeah.
it is totally achievable, whether it gets you there quick or slow. It's achievable and it's completely worth it because we're here to enjoy life and just be in the moment and be with family. And if something's, calling to you, like starting a business or writing a book or getting into the medical field, whatever it may be, I think it's important to like lean on that no matter what amount of time that you have, slow or fast.
Thank you so much. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, because we have allies listening in too, whether you're just getting into work from your commute or you're just getting home and getting into bed or to winding down with your family, remember to stop hustling and start slowing down. And guys, we had such a great conversation and we had many more topics to cover, but you know how it goes. We just get in the flow and we find out other nuggets that are more beneficial that we feel to share. So happy to have had this conversation with you, Sydney, and share with listeners. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time together. But before you go, make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get more stories from inspirational women like Sydney and other folks to come. Give me a follow on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to get more great content. And, we got a newsletter coming out. So make sure you subscribe to that. It'll be called Radiate for Working Mothers. So you can start slowing down and building in more self care into your routine. And we had a lot of great tips that we shared here today. And if you have any requests for future speakers or topics, send us an email at info@rawcoaching.com and we'll drop that in the show notes. And we'll see you next time.